Content warning. The language in this episode is much more explicit than usual. Listener discretion is advised. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Today I have for you a poem of sorts. It's a confrontation between Megatron and a battlefield opponent. He asked the opponent a question, and the opponent responds like Megatron asked his opponent, "Who are you?" And the response is, "I am the guardian of the gates, the means of your demise, the laser lightning way to your doom. I am the author of your obsolescence. I am the number you cannot compute, Decepticon." Welcome to Backlit Cinema, the podcast, where we talk about the movies of yesteryear. My name is Zoe. That's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. It's the 133rd episode. Thank you for downloading and streaming. We really appreciate it. We watch the movies of yesteryear. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, tell that driver of that suspiciously conspicuous red and blue Peterbilt cab over tractor trailer about Backlit Cinema, the podcast. And now, ladies and germs and gender nonconforming, I have for you a very special guest. In fact, he's so special that I didn't even ask the brother for a picture when I had the chance. You may know him as a DJ putting out the freshest beats in the club of New York City. You may know him as one of the writers of the acclaimed American Gods series. You may know him, as I do, as one of the hosts of For All Nerds podcast. My friends, I present to you a man known by many names. He's been called Reading Rainbow. He's been called Arsenio Holodeck. He's been called 4DMX. He's been called Lionel Richie. He's been called Doctor Who's Man Is This? He's been called the Wakandan Werewolf of London. He's been called Meek Millhouse. He's been called Big Dick Grayson Energy. Around the world, he's known as the co-author of the soon-to-be-released trade paperback comic book Purple Haze. Ladies, gentlemen, friends, I present to you DJ BenHaMeen.
Oh, with the applause sound effect and everything. Look at that.
I modernized and whatnot.
We still clap until our editor puts it in. But like Robert Downey Jr. said, you only flubbed one line. It's actually a hardcover and not a trade paperback. It is.
Oh, it's a hardcover. Okay, I was not familiar with that. Thank you for correcting me.
Sir.
All right, cool.
Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze is definitely a hardcover. It is all the bang for your buck.
Awesome. So you're giving us the real joints right there. I haven't.
Ooh. I can't wait. That's why I got to make that distinguishment because it is the oversized hardcover at that, so I can't wait to see
right
stuff. So yeah,
I was looking for a way to pre-order it, and the main way they got it is on Amazon. I was like, well, let me go and check out my comic book shop before I pre-order on Amazon. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing about it is that where I live at, if you want to, like, I live in the suburbs of Maryland, so specifically where I live at, if I wanted to order a comic book from a comic book shop, I have to do it with intention. Like, I can't just walk down the street. It's like a 15-minute drive to the nearest shop.
I'm in Brooklyn. There ain't no walking down the street to a nearest comic book shop. Like, I don't know the world where anyone lives who can walk down the street.
Right.
That's not a world people live in. So.
Right. I wish that I want that world back. There was a time that once upon a time I could just walk to the shop.
I never lived in that.
Really?
I grew up in Houston, man. It was a 20-minute drive.
Oh my God. Right. There was a time when it was like a 15-minute walk to the mall. Damn. And there was a comic book shop and it was nice.
I mean, I knew kids who lived over by that shop.
Right.
Yeah. That was in the better part of town than where I lived.
Right.
My part of town, we didn't have comic book shops.
And then after I got tired of that, I forgot the name of it, but there were services, and one of them was Mile High Comics, but I don't think I ever used them. But you can order from them, and they would ship you comics, and they even had a pullback and whatnot. So I used to do that, and now I got so many comics. I'm not even really collecting comic books like that anymore, but because it's just so much matter. It's just so much stuff, and no place to put it really. but yeah, I love comics, and you're doing the thing that I have always wanted to do. So and I've got a bunch of questions to ask you, and they're all out of order. So,
well,
and
first question I have to ask: did you actually end up ordering?
right. No, I am definitely working on it because I was like, oh, because I went to the Titan Comics site, and that's just a link to Amazon. I was like, oh, it's a link
No,
to Amazon.
I have the link into my bio and all my socials, and I'll send it to you. We're doing a run of signed copies.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about
Comics.
that.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get one of those. I want to get a signed copy. So, yeah, send me the link to that.
Yeah, and you can put it in the whole show run and all that, so everybody can get it.
Yeah, I definitely want that. It's like if I can get a signed copy, that's key.
Very much so.
Let me ask you. You've been writing scripts. You've written for critically acclaimed American Gods. Wasn't that HBO Max or HBO, or is that another one, or Netflix? I can't remember.
I can't either.
Doesn't matter.
It was on Hulu. It was on Hulu.
Right. If it's on Hulu, I think that's associated with Max.
Stars. What am I talking about? Stars.
Sorry,
I had a brain fart. It was on Stars.
Okay. I don't even. Oh, I probably did have Stars at one time. I think I used to have Stars. But anyway, it was a flash show.
It was on Hulu, so that's why.
Yeah. Right. It was a flash show. But I have to ask you: is this the first comic that you've considered writing? No. Were there other comic book concepts that you had?
No, that's an interesting question. No, I've thought about writing comics all my life, even before I've thought about writing movies, film, TV, comics all my life. That wasn't something that just popped up when I started doing American Gods. So I had comic book concepts that from a kid that I still have. There's one that I want to do now that I didn't get to do with this. So no, this isn't the first comic that I thought about writing, but it was funny. I was working on American Gods and I went to New York Comic Con. This is about 2 years ago now. And yeah, gonna be 3 years ago with this Comic Con. And I ran into my man, Isaac Goodhart, who's a really dope artist. He has a really incredible book, The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. It's fucking amazing. If you can pick it up, anyone, it's so good. Check that out. Christopher Chaos, such a great comic. But I run into Isaac and he's like, yo, I know you're working on Gods and doing all this TV stuff, but you should write comics, man. You should do some comics. And I'm like, sure, why not? And he's like, we'll do a comic together. So I'm like, cool. And we were gonna, I came back to him the next day with a pitch. Actually, I went home that night, thought of something. I was like, oh, this is a quick idea for a little 2-page comic we can pitch to somebody just to do a little 2-pager. And he's like, cool, let's do it. And then the next day, Mellow Brown, my partner on American Gods, and just my brother, basically my writing partner, we just drove back as friends and brothers for years now, for over 2 decades now, I think. And he hits me up and is like, yo, I have to pitch this Hendrix comic, because he'd been writing Blade Runner for Titan. They have a Blade Runner comic and he'd been writing them. And so they asked him to do a pitch for this Hendrix comic. So the day after Isaac tells me I should write comics, Mello hits me up and is like, yo, you want to pitch this comic? And it went from there to how this went.
Oh man, that's amazing. I've always,
and I still haven't done that book with Isaac, so
waiting
on that.
I've always wanted to draw for comics. One time I had mailed and got the Marvel used to do this this thing
how to draw the Marvel way.
Yeah, how to draw the Marvel way. And you ordered it and it was like a giant size comic book. It basically the size that artists use to draw on Marvel comics, and I got that. But I never really finished like the drawings. just start, and this is back when I was in high school, so just start drawing and then never really, because I would get stuck. I would get the artist version of writer's block, and I never really could get past it. So when you were writing, did you ever get stuck, or did you like writer's block, or did you have a disagreement with the story, or was there a lot of pressure from Titan to complete the book? How did you deal with situations like that?
Well, that's like 3 different questions. Let's see. To answer in order, did I ever get writer's block? I always get writer's block. It's just a constant thing. You just work through it.
Right.
I honestly don't. I've never had that type of block where I couldn't write when I wanted to write. I more have a block where I just don't write a lot.
Right,
Like where
right.
I'm not the writer who writes every day. I never have been. I create every day pretty much something, but I don't just write every day. I usually am doing, either I'm DJing, I'm making music, and then there will be days where I write, so it's different days, different things. So I really don't know writer's block like that as so far, at
Okay.
least in my life, at least. I'll just usually do something else or I'll come back to it. And then with something like Hendrix, I didn't have a lot of block because I was working with Mellow, and we're just a great team, and we both had real specific ideas for this story that we wanted to, like, themes that we wanted to talk about. And so once we laid that out and then we laid out the acts, it wasn't that difficult. At least, no, that's making it seem easy, and that's not what it is. It wasn't that I felt blocked. It was more like I wanted to perfect shit. So I would revise and revise and revise this script a lot. And as far as the last part, I think the question was, it difficult working with Titan? No. And this is my first experience working with a comic book company. This is my first experience working with established IP. This is my first experience working with someone who's a real life person. Jimi Hendrix is an official character. Jimi Hendrix is a real person, and so we had to work with his estate just like we had to work with Titan at every step of the way. The Jimi Hendrix estate, and I became I wouldn't say close, but I was working with Janie Hendrix, who is Jimmy's sister. So that was an experience in itself, but it was definitely, I don't say difficult. I would say, everyone has very specific ideas, and we had to work with those very specific ideas and figure out how we can work with and around those ideas so we can tell the story we felt needed to be told.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So as I understand it, this story this is a science fiction story. So,
Yes.
And there is a history of like Black musicians and Afrofuturism, evoking science fiction imagery in their art.
Yes.
So how is it approaching? Well, I don't know, because you said Mello had brought it to you, so that he already kind of had a concept for what he wanted to do, or did you both have to approach the Hendrix estate about the concept of Jimi Hendrix in a scientific setting or a sci-fi setting?
All right, that's the funny part of this, and I've asked Mello about it, and I've talked about it on other interviews, and I'll say it again today. None of us really remember exactly where the science. As far as actually, no, I do, because I talked to Tom Mandrake about it. Tom Mandrake is the artist on it. It's Tom, and then there's Justin Prokovich, who is the colorist. But Tom is like the penciler and inker. And real quick, Tom Mandrake's a goddamn legend. I'm sure you got questions about that, so we'll get to that later. But I just wanted to say that because that man's a monster. But yeah, I think, and the thing is, they've been working, Titan and the Hendrix estate have been working on this book for years before me and Mello were even involved. And it just had gone through various pitches and various writers. They'd always had Tom on board, and it just hadn't worked out. They just hadn't come up with the right scenario for this book. And so when we came on board, they'd had the science fiction idea. They were like, we don't want you to pitch us a straight biography. They wanted us to do something different with some science fiction. That's pretty much all the idea they had. We pretty much came up with this whole, story that we wanted to tell. And I'm really proud of that, because it's a space opera, science fiction. I say, it's, Star Wars, Dune, all those are influences on it. It's very Afrofuturistic. It's very influenced by Jimmy's music and Jimmy's writing and Jimmy's words, because Jimmy was very much into science fiction and all this stuff. His sister approved all that. She loved all that. It's very Black and it's very revolutionary. And those are the two things that Mello really wanted to focus. Like whenever he talks about it, he always said, Ben, make sure you mention that it's very Black and that Jimmy is super Black. And that, I mean, for real, because that's something we were both adamant about, because, and me as a, I don't even like call myself a musician. We were talking about this earlier, but as a DJ, as a producer, as someone who makes and loves music and loves Black music, and the history of it was very important to me. And Jimmy's place in that history of it is very important to me. And Jimmy being a Black man who is the greatest guitarist of all time is very important to me. And so all those things were things that we wanted to make sure were expressed through this. And that rock music is Black music. And pretty much all American music is Black music. And so we wanted that to be a very central part of the story we told. And yeah, I think we did. But the science fiction stuff it's all there, and it's all wrapping around that story of Black music, of discovery, of someone finding the Blackness in themselves, of someone finding the music within themselves. That's the story we were telling here. And then it's wrapped up in this whole science fiction thing, which I think is so cool because we created this whole ass world and universe. So.
Right. So let me ask you, you had mentioned that a lot of this is based on his writing, on Jimi Hendrix writing. Mm-hmm. Were you privy to any writing that's not generally available to the public?
No.
Oh, okay.
I should have asked for that. I didn't even think to ask for that. That's funny.
Like, that would have been nice. Like, yeah, this is a song that was never released.
No, that's so funny though, because it's like when we first started getting publicity for the book, a Jimi Hendrix like Instagram account that has millions of followers posted some images from the book and was like, "Oh, this is coming out." And most of the comments were like, "Oh, this book looks cool. This is cool." Well, I'll say about 50-50. 50-50 are like, "Yo, this book looks cool," and 50-50 are just straight complaining about why the Hendrix estate hasn't released this bit of music, this album that they know is out there. You know, I'm like,
also they're conspiracy theories.
Oh my God, it's crazy. And that's why I tell people I'm a Jimmy fan, but I'm not like a Jimmy fan, you know, like that, where I know every little bit about the man or anything. And I'm a Prince fan like that, but I still don't know everything about Prince, but I'm a big Prince fan. And I know how people act around his estate, you know, and it's so funny to me because it's like, man, when he was alive, he wasn't putting this music out for a reason. And I know y'all want it,
right?
But there's a reason why he didn't put it out,
right?
And now when the estate puts it out, I don't really feel that good about listening to those Prince songs. And when I do, I'm usually like, let me go back to this old Prince, you know?
Right.
You know, there's a reason why he didn't put this out, and that's the way I feel about Jimmy's music. I don't know what's out there that they want so badly, you know, but. No, I didn't get to hear no songs that but before those theories and people start, you know, blowing up my pages. No, I ain't hear no shit. I ain't read no shit. All the research I did was like research on our own, you know, that me and Mellow did. I definitely read a few books. I read the one that I loved the most. I don't know the name of it offhand, but it was a book it was a biography of Jimmy, but it was written in his own letters and notes and things of that nature. So it got, you know, you got to hear his words and his voice, and that was really dope.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's dope. So you had mentioned the artist Tom Mandrake earlier. If anybody wants to see a sample of what his works looks like for this book, as you mentioned, it's on the Hendrix account, but also there's also if you go to like Amazon and click on the description, it'll show you some samples of the artwork, and it's absolutely fascinating. Yep. It's amazing. It's beautiful, and the likeness of Jimi Hendrix, it's uncanny how you can put that in comic book form and it'd be exactly right. So
yeah,
that I told you that I wanted to be a comic book artist, but when I see work like that, I am totally discouraged. It's like I am not doing that. It's like let me go back to doing what I normally do. So
I've never been an artist like that. You know, like I can write, I can make music a little bit. I cannot draw for nothing. As a kid, I did my attempts, you know, but I always knew that it was like, it's the dedication. I remember when I got the How to Draw the Marvel book, and they were like, okay, you got to start with stick figures and be able to draw a stick figure in every position. And then you got to be able to draw these little bubbles around your stick figure. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about bubbles, you know? And now as an adult, I get it. But, you know, as a kid, and my bubbles weren't right and my stick figures weren't right. And I just figured, but I know you got to sit there and do stick figures for, 50 hours, 1,000 hours. I get it. And I wasn't doing that. So
right.
That's why Tom is just Tom. No. Did you have a question or do you want me?
With Tom, how did he come on board? I know that you said that he was kind of on a project when you was brought on board, but do you know anything more about how he was brought on board to this project?
he done some work for the editor, and that's how most comics people work. That's how I find out now. You meet an editor, you know, like you do something for them, then they'll call you up for another project. And then that's something about Tom Mandrake. Like, I didn't know his name when I got this project because he was primarily a DC comic book artist during the years that I was coming up and when I was reading all the comics in the world. And at that time, I was reading all the comics. I didn't read DC like that. And he was doing books like The Spectre, which I definitely wasn't reading because it was horror and I wasn't interested. And I think he did some Suicide Squad. He did a lot. He's worked with everyone. He's just like an absolute beast. I said that before, but he's from the school of like classically trained artists like Neil Adams. But Neil's the one I always compare him to. Dude who used to do Alan Davis from Excalibur, where it's like they draw the whole scene, everything in it from background to foreground, the way their use of camera angles, their use of, like you said, expression and realism and emotion in characters. It's all these things. And Tom, so I didn't get it when they're like, okay, here's some of his art. They show you Jimmy. I'm like, okay, he can draw Jimmy. That's dope as fuck. And then I'm immediately like, let me Google who he is. And I start looking at him, I'm like, oh no, this dude's sick with it. He's really like, I remember I saw this Wolverine page. He did a Wolverine. It was just the angles, of Wolverine in the corner. Like, I think Wolverine had been hurt. So he's like down in the corner. And it was like the way that, each panel moved into him onto the corner. I was like, oh, this motherfucker is a storyteller too. Like, he's something else. So I'm really getting excited. And then I start Googling stuff about him and I see like his old work from the 90s. He was already drawing black people like very varied. Like he had this shot of the hood, whereas all these dudes in the hood. I always talk about this page. I need to find it because it was one of my favorite pages of him from back in the day. And it's just a bunch of black people in the hood, but everyone looks different and they look appropriate. Like they had the flat top with the Gumby with the 3 parts on the side. It's like this dude studied and they had big noses and full lips, but not like caricatures. They look like black people. So he's already been on this book for a minute at this point. And like I said, I think it was because he worked with David, our editor, before that. So he's been on the book. They've gone through a couple of writers, or at least one I know. Yeah, that's a whole story to itself that I really can't talk about. But yeah, I'll tell you about that one off air. That's one of the ones. But yeah, so he was just waiting. And so he gets the pitch that we pitched, and then we get, the book. We, after going through a couple of pitches, a couple of interviews, we get the book, and then we all get on a Zoom, and me and him just clicked right away. Like, Tom's like a 60-something-year-old white dude, but he's a lifelong Jimi Hendrix fan, and he just has a lot of the same ideas I had. Like, one big thing we both got right away was that we didn't want to have the music be represented with the little squiddly floating notes, like the written notes of music. And I was like, thank you, God. Because he was like, thank you, God, for saying that. Because I was like, bro, we are not doing that. We got to figure out a way to show this music, but we're not doing that.
A la Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and no, and that was ill. Or like, what was it, Legion? I don't know if you watched Legion.
No, I didn't get to see Legion.
Legion is so fire. I got to go back and finish it because I fell off it, but it was so fire. And there's character at one point who puts this musical notes across, and I think he did it better than Doctor Strange.
Right.
It was these musical notes across the screen. He was playing them, and it was playing with time and stuff. It was sick. That was ill. But right. I didn't want to, unless I did something like that, I didn't want to have notes on the screen. So because of that, we did not, have notes on the screen. And we figured out a way that I think is really dope of, showcasing music in this book.
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
fun.
he was already on it. And he started getting our scripts and started sending us back pages, and it was just one of the most mind-blowing moments in my life, I had to say. Like, the first time I saw his pencils of my pages, and then the written pages that he turned into these pencil pages and then turned into ink pages, it was, man, I can't get over that feeling. It's just one of the greatest feelings I've ever had, because it's like, this dude's a legend. And then he started telling us how he was really inspired by what we wrote. And that really, to this day, I have that saved because it's so monumental to me, because he's worked with all of these writers, people I grew up loving, people who I think to this day are some of the best writers I've ever, comics I've ever read. And he was like, oh, I was really inspired by your script. So I really put some extra effort into this and really went all in. And I've read a lot of his stuff, and I really feel like he put so much effort into this and really just went over the line, and just every page to me is like a work of art.
Awesome. And that is how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that I'm constantly working on. Whenever I think about going back into doing comics, it's like, well, I can't really concentrate on the panel. You have to, when you look at really good comic book art, it's really the page you have to look at. It's the whole page a work of art. And then when you can get to that level, then you know you're doing something special. Yeah. So you said that you've been looking at his books that he's done. So are there any particular books that really impressed you that you want to share that Tom Mandrake has drawn?
I mean, I really want everyone to go buy Hendrix. So that's my main thing right now is to go pre-order Hendrix and get the best thing that he's ever done. Damn it. That's what I'll say. I'll say that. God damn it. I always forget the name of this book and I have it in the other room. See if I can real quick Google it because I can't remember it because I really enjoyed this other one he did that is widely available right now. No, and I'm not gonna be able to remember it right now. So yeah, I would just say go pre-order.
Right.
Because like straight up, I can't compare it to anything else he's done. So if you get something else he's done, it's not going to be like this. That's what I mean. It's
right.
This is something else, man. Like, this is, like I said, this is something black. There's something musical. Nah, I would just really say, please go pre-order Jimi Hendrix Purpl Haze. We're going to put the link out there for you to get it, all that. I can't recommend anything else right now.
Right. Absolutely. You heard the man. Go and pre-order the book now. And we say pre-order because in the publishing industry, pre-ordering is like one of the most important things you can do. It really ensures that the book will be sold, and it really empowers the artists and the writers and the creators who put the work together. Does. So yeah, go ahead and pre-order. I'm going to pre-order mine. I'm going to pre-order the signed copy.
Yes,
because
and
I've never had a signed copy of a book before, so this is going to be the first.
That's crazy. I go to Comic-Con just to get just so I can tell people how great and what they mean to me. Like there's people like Art Adams, who this poster behind me, you probably know Art Adams, old school X-Men artist. And I think for the last 4 or 5 years now, I make it a point every New York Comic-Con to go sit at this table and for at least 10 minutes. And one day I spent like a couple hours with him, but just sitting there telling him how great he is. I have to do it. Yeah. So that's it. Just, these comments raise me. And so I'm always letting people know anytime I see them, Michael Golden, who did Avengers Annual 10, which is when Rogue steals Captain Marvel's powers. And it's like my first X-Men issue. It's like one of my first comics I ever read. So every year I go to him and he's like, sorry. Because I'm like, you got me started on this, bro. Like,
right.
So yeah, no, for Tom, I just gotta say Jimi Hendrix and how much pre-ordering does mean. We're really looking to push this to a second printing, God willing. We are just hoping for that. I really I know I'm tooting my own horn every day, but I'm just really proud of this book. I've read so many comics over my life. This was definitely my first comic I've written, but I just think that me and Mello really did something super special, and then Tom and Justin just did magic. So I'm really, really looking forward to this.
Right. Awesome. And I'm happy for you. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to reading the book. And I don't even really read a whole bunch of comic books nowadays. It's like, and then when I do, it's usually on Kindle. And right now I'm kind of stuck on Invincible right now.
Oh God, so good.
I can't.
So
like good. I was stuck on Immortal Hulk for a little while.
So
and then,
good.
Sometimes what happened is that I'll stop reading and then I'll forget what I'm reading. And then I go back and look at the books the series that I had been reading. I was like, oh my God, all of these series are left unfinished. And I missed like 8 issues and it's like, it's going to take forever to catch up. So
Immortal Hulk, I think once you got through some of it, you got it.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And the ending wasn't as good as the journey.
Right. Right. I think I got up to the...
Nah, man, you got to read that all.
Yeah. And then the other one I had been reading that I need to start catching up on is no, not Fables. What's it called? It's Saga. Thank you. You knew when I said
it. Like I say, bro, I've read too many. It's like I read Fables and I read Saga.
Man, Saga is amazing.
How far are you in Saga?
I'm not even sure. I know that I've gotten to the point where I got the baby. So the baby is kind of going around. But she's not.
Okay, you're not that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that deep into it.
I gave up after you. You know, there's a point where I gave up, and I might go back to it, but I don't know, man. That book depressed me. I love it to death, but it's like
here's the thing, man. That's what that is a testament to how great the book is. It makes you feel something, and that's something that people need to realize that these books can do for you. Like whenever somebody asks me, like, you got a recommendation, that's one of my first recommendations is Saga, especially like the first volume. It's incredible.
I barked on him. What's Saga? That's Brian Michael. Not Brian Michael. That's my
Vaughn is his last
Brian
name.
K. Vaughn.
Yeah.
I barked on him at Comic-Con one year. I've talked to him since, but I barked on him the first time I saw him. Like he was sitting at a table signing books, and I was like, "Yo, stop killing characters I love, bro." He's like, right. What? I was like, "Yo, stop killing characters I love."
Like, right.
Sorry. So yeah, but no, another one is Why the Last Man. I love of his.
Yeah.
It's just I cannot remember the name of it exactly, but he has this graphic novel about these lions. The Something of Baghdad, I think it's called, because it's about these lions who escaped this zoo. It's like a true story. It's about what happened to the lions who were in Baghdad after the U.S. invaded.
Right.
That's a mind-blowing graphic novel.
Wow.
That's one of them, one and done stories that's just so good. So,
right.
Yeah, Brian K. Vaughn's he's a boss.
I can imagine lions be like, I'm free now, bitches.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they're not talking or anything in that book.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I can't remember. I read that so long ago. I can't remember. But yeah.
All right. So like I said, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Let me ask you, do you have any other things you want to plug? I know you have some songs out on the various streaming services.
Really just on Bandcamp and SoundCloud. Yeah,
mainly like some on SoundCloud.
Yeah, mainly I just want to plug Jimi Hendrix, Purpl, Haze, and then everything else. Like you were saying, I've been producing house music. I'm a DJ for pretty much all my life, so I really started getting and producing like dance and house music over the last 2 years, I guess now. And I started releasing songs this year. So all of that you can find on all my socials. All the links are in my bios. My link tree has everything in there. DJ BenHaMeen on everything, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever. Threads. I'm on Threads a lot. But at DJ BenHaMeen, and if you check my bio and my link in there, you can find Hendrix, you can find my music. If you're a DJ or a producer, holla at me. I'll send you this shit for free. Otherwise, y'all can buy it off Bandcamp. And and then of course, For All Nerds, the legendary For All Nerds with my partner Tatiana King. We do the show every week. We're the podcast of geek and pop culture. You can find us all over the internet at For All Nerds. Make sure you follow and subscribe everywhere. And I think that's about it for people. Always like, oh, you're doing all this shit. And I always feel mad lazy, but I don't.
You ain't the only one.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm trying to think of anything else that I need to plug right now. No, really, please pre-order Jimi Hendrix Purpl Haze. That's the biggest thing. Like I said, we're doing a run of signed copies at Anyone Comics. They will ship them nationwide. So if you go to Anyone Comics website, I'm gonna put the link in here, but if you don't see the link, you can go to Anyone Comics website and order it. You can call them up. They'll do it. We're going to have a signing there the week of the release, which is July 31st. So if you're in Brooklyn, you can come through. I'll sign the book right in front of you. And, you'll get the special joint where I write it straight to you and all that shit. After that, I'm going to be going, we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con, at Dragon Con in Atlanta. I'm going to be down your way probably in January for MagFest. I plan to be at as many cons and spots as I can once this book drops, so I can talk about it, promote it, do interviews, anything. And like I said on my own show, if anybody out there want to have me on the show, anyone listening or watching this, I'm always down. Just hit me up at DJ BenHaMeen. So
Sweet, sweet. I'll make sure I have everything in the show notes. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to talk about the movie that we just recently watched?
I rewatched it again this morning, so yeah, I'm definitely down to talk about it. And I've seen that movie during pandemic when I was doing a lot of streaming. I would have Transformers the movie playing in the background all the time. So it was like always on my screen when I was DJing and stuff. So I would always see it. So it's embedded in my head.
All right, so we're gonna go to the next segment. DJ BenHaMeen, tell the people the movie we watched and let them know give them the short description of what we are about to embark on.
Well, we watched Transformers, the movie, the original 1986, the animated feature flick, which basically ruined majority. See, I think you're a little older than me, Zoe, so probably didn't destroy you like it destroyed me in the theaters. It's up there with because people always talk about, we have a question on our show like greatest death, what death affected you the most, fictional characters death, what fictional characters death affected you the most.
Right.
And Optimus Prime wasn't that one for me, but it was just the whole movie was one of those big like, wow, I couldn't believe what I was fucking seeing, to be honest. Like, excuse my French. I could not fucking, and rewatching it, it's like, yo, and I rewatched it and I went on Reddit and I'm reading about it and stuff, and it's so funny how who thought this was for kids? It's so ridiculous. Oh my God, my man, smoke pours out that nigga's mouth, dog. Like, proud, nigga, that nigga, nigga's eyes go from orange to black, like, and smoke pours. What, in the first 10 minutes of this movie, smoke is pouring out this nigga's mouth. You see his look of oblivion, bro. It is, like, that movie is dark.
Yeah, it is. It's a trip.
Yeah. Oof. So yeah, we watched Transformers the movie, so we're gonna talk about childhood shattering films. That's what we're about to talk about.
Right.
The civil war on the planet Cybertron is nearly over. After millions of years, the evil Decepticons finally have control of this world, have nearly vanquished the heroic Autobots. Into this chaos arrives Unicron, an ancient, massive, and powerful sentient planet that eats other planets to sustain itself. Or just because it feels like it, really. Next on the menu is Cybertron, where the warring factions unite to defeat this brave threat to their homeworld. Because he was not eating Cybertron. He was just wrecking that shit. Like, it was not about eating at that point.
Well, he considered sparing it, and then he decided to go ham, and instead of like eating on it, like, because he ate one of the moons, right? Yeah. And so instead of eating Cybertron, he's like, well, I'm going to just fight it. I'm going to fight Cybertron.
I'm just going to punch that shit out.
So this movie was released August 8th, 1986. It was produced by Sunbro Productions, Marvel Productions, and Hasbro. It grossed over $5.8 million, adjusted for inflation, that's $16 million in the US and Canada. And it had a reported budget of $6 million. And if you adjust that, that's $16.8 million. So if you do the math, that's basically telling you that this movie made less than it cost to produce. That's just the reported production budget. That's not including the marketing. And they marketed the fuck out of this movie.
There were so many commercials for this whole. Oh my God.
Here's my favorite commercial. Like you said, it didn't hit me as hard as it hit you. And you're probably right. Because here's what happened. On a commercial, it said, will Optimus Prime die? And if so, who will lead the Autobots? And I'm like, oh, they killed him. They killed Optimus Prime. I was upset when I saw the commercial. I already knew. Like, why would you say some shit like that if you wasn't going to kill Optimus Prime?
That's funny, because I was going to go look up the commercial. I didn't remember that. And I had no clue how hard this film was going to go. Right. And that's what I think, that's why it's so shocking. And so, because in today's culture where things get spoiled or where people just know, You know, like if this movie came out today, you would know 6 months ahead of time that Optimus Prime was going to die.
Right.
I doubt you know that Prowl was going to get shot and smoke was going to pour out that nigga's mouth. Like that's what like. If people like, I didn't give a damn about Optimus. Honestly, he was never my favorite Terraformer. But Prowl taking that L or Cup rolling over the Insecticon and crushing his head.
Right. They went hard. Here's the thing though. Like when you watch the cartoon, you know, lasers are bouncing off him all the time. It takes it's like they never take damage ever. And then next thing you know, one regular laser blast, and next thing you got a hole in your chassis. And I was like, oh, okay, this is something different. We doing something different right now.
Dead. That nigga fucking who the man who is Ironhide?
Yeah, Ironhide got it bad. He got shot in the head. he got shot in the head with a fusion canister. You got to imagine it basically took out half of his chest.
When and his head. Yeah, he was gone. That was such a foolish display of heroism.
Yeah, it's such heroic nonsense. I think is what he said.
Such heroic nonsense. There it is. Oof. Like this is like I'm like 9, 10, dog, maybe, you know, a little 8 or 9 in the theater. Like, what? You know, like, nah, bro. There was, and like you said, it was because it wasn't like I'd seen Robotech at that point. You know, I grew up on Robotech. So I'd seen Rick Hunter, you know, what's his name? Roy Fokker, you know, dies. And that was my man's. I love Roy Fokker. It devastated me. But in Transformers, no one ever caught him. No one. At the very worst that could happen in the Transformers is that you get buried in the snow. And that's about, and then you'd never see that character, or you wouldn't see that character for like maybe until the next season or something like that. Or they do like the Dinobots where you just buried you in some rocks and then, you know, they'd be put on hiatus essentially. But actual never.
They weren't trying to do that.
So it wasn't like, you know, it was, and there was no crosses or universes. You knew that in Transformers, nobody died. And so when you walked into the theater and then everybody's getting capped left and right, heads are getting crushed. I mean, Optimus Prime straight up slaughters like 6 Decepticons on his way in to get Megatron. To the, you know, I mean, and beautifully animated, you know, the thing where you got the touch, like it's so nice. My man, we used to watch it over. He flips over him and then lands. He just jack, you know, like he's over here like Commando or somebody. Like, it's great.
That's how we envisioned him. So
yes, hardcore.
Hardcore like, Optimus. Let's get into some of the actors. This is a rare thing, is that they got an all-star cast, or a mostly star cast in this movie. And what's really different about it is that, like, before in animated movies, they didn't show who were the voices, or they would wait to the end and then show at the end of the movie a bunch of, you know, whoever did the voices, and they were rarely like screen actors. But this was different. It had a bunch of screen actors, starting off with Judd Nelson. He played Hot Rod, Rodimus Prime, and he's been in the Breakfast Club, New Jack City, that I talk about in episode 21, and St. Elmo's Fire. So
you talk about how, because I did a panel about New Jack City, with some great guests. It was a few years back, so I had to rewatch it then. Did you talk about how Judd Nelson gets told to shut up every time he talks in that movie?
I don't think I noticed that.
Watch it again. Not one time does he open his mouth without someone. If I asked for your opinion, if I wanted your opinion, I'd ask for it. Or just straight up, shut up.
I think shut up. On that movie, I get stuck on what's his name? Christopher Williams. What's his name? Is that his name? Christopher Williams?
Yeah, Christopher Williams.
I talked to myself.
Like nigga from the bank.
How he got stabbed in the hand. And,
oh God!
And he said, "Shut up, you pretty motherfucker."
No, watch it again. Judd Nelson gets told to shut up every time he talks.
Oh man, I got it
every time. I made sure I wasn't bugging. It's amazing.
Yeah. Get the next one.
Orson Welles. Yeah, let me put some status on this man's name. Orson Welles as Unicron. Citizen Kane, Touch of Evil. Citizen Kane, Touch of Evil, boy. The lady from Shanghai. I mean, just one of the greatest of all time. Orson Welles used to fucking drive around in an ambulance in New York, going from Broadway to his film sets and his other plays, because that's how, you know, much work he was putting in.
I didn't know that.
True story. He used to have ambulances drive him around, you know, lights blaring and everything. So that's how much work he was putting in. That's how he needed to be everywhere all at once.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I hadn't had the opportunity, or I've not taken the time to watch some of his work. So I need to go and get started.
God.
I need to study some of this stuff.
You got to, man. He's just incredible. And like Citizen Kane, Touch of Evil, especially those two. I've watched Citizen Kane too many times. And the Touch of Evil, the first, it's one of the first. I'm not one of the first, but it's one of the great long shots in cinema history. Is the like first 7 or 8 minutes, I think, of Touch of Evil is one long shot, and it's just absolutely incredible. I got shown that in film school, and I was like, ooh, yeah. So this was Orson Welles' final film, rest in peace, before his death on October 10th, 1985, at the age of 70. He recorded those lines 5 days prior on October 5th. Wow.
Yeah, that was hard. It's hard to hear that, but he had works on the books, as I hear tell. Right? He probably had projects after this that he had planned on doing. And the thing that I remember Orson Welles mostly from, besides the War to World broadcast.
Go ahead. Please don't say this, though. I'm going to see what you say.
Oh, well, you already know what I'm going to say.
No, I want to know.
Because first I talk about War of the Worlds because I have that broadcast on CD, and nice. it's fascinating because, and apparently people were not actually fooled as much as it's claimed, as most of that is kind of a myth. Sure. Yeah. People weren't actually, because they kept saying like every 15 minutes, this is actually a radio broadcast. But somehow that legend got spread. But it's a fascinating broadcast. And yes, I'm going to say it because there are people listening to the podcast that don't know that he was the guy that would say, I will drink no wine before it's time. He used to do these wine commercials, and that's
God. Have you ever seen the outtakes? That's what I was talking about.
I never seen the outtakes, but that commercial was so impressive to me. It almost made me want to drink wine.
I just saw it recently. It just came up on something the other day, and I just saw it, and he's drunk out his mind doing them shits, like out his mind. And they are like trying to, corral him to get him to do these commercials. And this nigga is hammer time.
Right.
Oh my God, yeah. Orson Welles lived that life.
Right. He definitely did.
He lived it.
Up next is Robert Stack. He played Ultra Magnus. He's been in Written on the Wind, To Be or Not to Be, and Airplane. I covered that in episode 110. I also know him from Unsolved Mysteries. He's just like as serious as they come. And then when he was in the Airplane, he played it serious. Almost didn't want to do that. He really didn't want to do that movie until they really explained the jokes to him. He was like, okay. And then as long as he played it serious, he made it one of the funniest movies around. It's like just an outstanding personality.
Damn sure is. And then next up, I actually got to do a panel with his daughter, which was great. Leonard Nimoy, another legend, rest in peace, man. Galvatron, and we all know who Leonard Nimoy is. Star Trek, the one called Spock. And he came back for Transformers. Damn, he didn't. I don't even want to say that. He did not need to do that. Jesus Christ, fuck, bro.
Yeah, he did come back.
You did not need to do that, dog. They could have. I need to rewatch that one again then.
You don't know what he played?
Yeah, he played Galvatron, right?
No.
I would hope.
I don't think Galvatron was in that one. Or maybe he was. Yeah, I think Galvatron was in. I can't remember.
Isn't one of them. Yeah.
A lot of that movie is blocked out. A lot of that movie is blocked out.
Yeah, no way.
But I do.
That nigga's being dragged out of his deathbed to do something other than Galvatron.
I do remember what he played though. He played Sentinel Prime.
Oh,
that's the fire truck.
Oh God. Yeah, anyway, all right. Rest in power, man. You know what I mean? You didn't need to do that one. Jesus.
Well, see, we wouldn't be too down on this movie if Transformers Dark of the Moon was like a fire movie, but unfortunately it wasn't. So now we got to say, I wish it was better.
Yeah, for real. For your legacy and for your time on Earth that you didn't need to be wasting doing that. But,
right.
I mean, it was probably like a day of work and a huge check. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. They was like, Leonard, you was on Transformers. Why don't you come back? It was like, okay, whatever.
Whatever. My daughter needs a new house.
Right.
All right.
Also, he was on Land of the Lost. Up next is Norman Alden. He played Kranix. He's been in Back to the Future. We covered last episode, number 132. Ed Wood and Tora. I don't know if he's a what you call it. I don't remember seeing him in Back to the Future. Let's put it that way.
I don't know. Anyway, next is John Machida Jr., who played Blur and was the star of the Micro Machine commercials. Micro Machines. And rewatching it, he does not really talk that fast as Blur. I think he's faster as Micro Machine, but
I think he had to slow down for the cartoon because, like, when on the Micro Machine commercials, he's really fast.
Yeah,
and then I think he can talk faster. And then they said that Twister actually can rap faster than John Machida. So
easily, Twister's eating him alive.
Right.
Ain't no question. Twister's eating this man for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like,
but I had to include him just because those Micro Machine commercials were iconic.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Blur was great, but wildly annoying rewatching it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So he's better, I think, on the cartoons than he was in the movie.
Probably.
So Michael Bell is next. He played Prowl, Scrapper, Swoop, and the Junkions.
All right. And then Greg Berger returned as Grimlock. Grimlock.
Susan Blue makes her debut as RC.
Loved her. Arthur Burkhart is Devastator. I didn't know Devastator even had a line.
Yeah, he had one line. They always give him like one line. Actually, It may have been two lines because he appeared twice. Yeah. Then Corey Burton, he played Spike, Brawl, and Shockwave. I don't remember Shockwave saying anything.
He gets crushed. And according to one webpage, it says that Shockwave got killed in this film, and I did not know that.
No, I didn't know either.
Yeah, well, I think because he does, like, when Unicron attacks Cybertron at the end, there's a shot of Shockwave, and I think he does talk right there because he's like, yeah, he does. He tells the rest of the Decepticons to get ready for the attack.
Oh, and okay. Then,
yeah, but according to one webpage, he gets, I'm not sure if he's among those who gets thrown into his mouth later on, but they say he dies, so.
Right.
And Shockwave was my dude.
Yeah.
Illest voice.
There's illest. I used to, Transformers used to be in my comments, like everybody else is collecting X-Men, Avengers, Superman, Batman, Death in the Family, all those
I know that, like, Shockwave issue you're talking about.
that Shockwave issue. I don't know if I still have it, but I remember having it.
He fights Megatron, right? That shit was hard.
Yeah, man, he was the leader of the Decepticon for about a year.
Yeah, he whooped his ass in that issue. Yeah.
Basically, Megatron was his bitch, right? And,
yeah. No, that shit was, I remember that.
Up next is Victor Caroli. He was a narrator. I had to put his credit in here because he's like the narrator of all the Transformers. Whenever it was narrated, it was his voice, that gravelly voice, that grave, gravelly, like it's almost like a voice that says, you need to pay attention to me. I'm speaking, right?
For real. And then, of course, another mother effing legend who Tatiana had the joy of speaking to, Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, and also Ironhide. Rest in peace to Ironhide, because caught that hot one.
Also, Frank Welker. He voiced Megatron, Soundwave, Rumble, Frenzy, which is essentially the same voice, Ravage, just a bunch of growls, Wheelie, an auto combatant, I don't exactly know what that means, and the Junkions.
Nice. And I mean, he's another legend because his Megatron and Soundwave are
I've heard him on so many cartoons, though.
He's done amazing. Too many. Yeah. Christopher Collins, another legend, Starscream, and Laserbeak, who I did not know had any voices, but Starscream, of course, is iconic.
Well, he's doing the screams, I guess, but the screeches. But yeah, Starscream is definitely an iconic voice, and I've seen him reuse that voice in other cartoons.
Nice. Hey, get paid, young nigga, get paid.
Right, absolutely. A classic actor, Scatman Crothers as Jazz. You may have seen him in The Shining or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You may know him as a jazz musician. He's just amazing.
Yes.
This was also his final film before his death in November 22nd, 1986. At the age of 76, that's less than a month away from when Orson Welles passed away. But just an amazing voice. When Jazz spoke, when Jazz was on the screen, when I was watching the TV and I saw Jazz, I felt like I was there. It was like, that's somebody I can relate to. It was Jazz.
We all knew that Jazz. I mean, obviously the voice was black, and we all knew it.
Absolutely.
that was Scatman. We knew that was a black man doing that voice. So,
Right.
Yeah. And then last and least, sorry, David Mendenhall was Daniel Witwicky, who I could give a shit about. Sorry. Anytime Daniel, but no, wait, Daniel's the dad. Daniel's the kid. Fuck Daniel. Spike is the dad. And I have to say,
that's right. Spike's the dad. I got confused there. Spike is the dad.
Yeah, we watching it. Spike curses in this film, which is the greatest. Shit! What are we gonna do now?
Yeah, they was going for that PG rating.
That and Ultra Madness is open. Damn it! Open are some of my favorite moments in that movie. The first time I saw it, when he said "open," damn it, I was in the theater like, a Transformer just cursed.
Right.
I lost it.
Yeah, that was definitely. It's time for you to grow up, son.
Yo, open, damn it, my nigga was tight. Like
they really was trying to impress upon you how serious this movie was, and so in order for you to understand the seriousness of the situation, dudes is getting capped, smokes is coming out of their mouth, and motherfuckers is saying shit.
What are we gonna do now?
And it's the good guys cursing. You notice that none of the bad guys curse.
Spike, who's been on the TV show the whole time,
right?
Yeah, had anything to say. Now he out here cursing.
Right. And none of the bad guys curse, which is kind of funny.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they don't. No.
So, who directed this joint?
Yep, it was directed by Nelson Shin, who also did Fall Kingdom, never seen, and Empress Charm, never seen.
I think these are Chinese movies. Or Japanese movies. I'm not exactly sure. Didn't do the research.
This shit did flop. Man probably went right back to Japan after that.
He's more of a producer. From what I've seen, he's only directed like 5 movies, and most of those was for TVs, like TV movies.
Yeah.
So it's like,
don't get many chances.
Look, here's the thing. It's not. I don't think that it's really his fault. I think most of the blame lies on Hasbro, and we'll get into that later. This movie was written by Ron Friedman. So the credits are kind of crazy. This is an animated feature, so I think the credits are different. This is the first animated feature I've did on the show. So they have credits on here that I'm not familiar with. So like Friedman, he's credited as the writer. And he created Bionic 6. He wrote for G.I. Joe, the movie. He wrote for the Defenders of the Earth. And he wrote a lot of episodes of Fantasy Island. He wrote a lot of television.
Nice.
But I loved Bionic 6. I wish I can find it somewhere besides YouTube, because it's horrible on YouTube. But I never got to like really watch it, because the only channel that I could get was like snowy. So I would get a corrupted version of the show because the signal was so poor.
I know Bionic 6, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. So, they had this fly ass theme song. I fucking loved it. Also, there's Henry Ornstein. He's credited as the creator of the movie. I don't know exactly how that works, because he didn't actually create the concept of the Transformers. So I don't understand how he gets credit for creating a movie. I'm guessing he's more like a producer. This is like one of those credits that I don't understand, because there's no credit in, there's no creator credit. Producer. Yeah, because there's no creator credit in like live action films. The next is Flint Dilley and Douglas Booth. They were story consultants. Again, no such credit in.
No, that is a lot. No, that's
in live action.
No, people get that all the time. Story consultants just mean you consult on a story. That means you were probably they did something like a writer's room and threw some ideas around.
Okay, this is the first time I've seen it. So awesome.
Oh yeah.
And then I really want to put this in. They're not credited in the movie, but Jim Shooter and Bud Budiansky. So this is important because Jim Shooter was the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. He developed the concept of the 2 warring factions from Cybertron. That was his idea. He's the reason why we have Autobots and Decepticons, and he's the reason we have the planet Cybertron. Budiansky, I think he was one of the editors. He developed the names and personalities of the initial robots for Marvel Comics. So Hasbro went to Marvel Comics. They had bought the rights for various different Japanese toys, and then wanted to take all these different toys from different companies and mash them into one, reality. And basically, Budiansky created like the Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, all of these characters, at least the initial characters that we know now that they use over in Japan, that they use in the movies, that they're using in this movie.
Billions of dollars.
Right. It's created by Budiansky, and I read so much Transformers comics.
Me too. I read them all. Like I wasn't I didn't, I've read any comic I could get my hands on. I read. So I read Transformers. I read them. I read everything.
And what's funny about Transformers is that it was in the Marvel Comics universe. Like Spider-Man would show up. There were comics, there were characters that were created for Transformers that appeared in Marvel comic stories. There were settings like Roxxon Oil that was in Transformers that was part of the Marvel universe. So it's like that was, they was knee deep in superheroes. So that was pretty cool.
And then all that got retconned out because they eventually sold the Transformers comics rights to IDW.
Right.
And so for years they would have like pages missing from those collections. And I think recently most of that got put back in, except for like the Spider-Man stuff that's still not in there.
Right. So
and then
I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, next was the music by Vince DiCola. And the music is actually really incredible in this film. He did also the Rocky IV, Staying Alive. But I don't know about Rocky IV, but Staying Alive, that's classic music.
Right.
And some of the soundtrack standouts are Lion. All right, now this is what I do want to talk about. Is Lion that's the group who sings
the first part is the group, and then I have what they sang or the song that they're responsible for.
All right, now that is what I wanted, because you had this thing about how the original is a little bit offbeat and shit. I don't care. So the thing that always killed me as a kid and to this day is the fact that Lion, this group, comes into this sound booth somewhere, a recording studio somewhere in the world, and absolutely belts out more than Maester. Like they give it their all.
They say it with their whole chest.
I feel like there's a gospel chorus in there singing it. Like they go all the way out, and it was always so funny because I'm like, how much money did they get paid, and how embarrassed were they to be in there belting? Could they really belt out the Transformers theme song?
You know what? I think they loved the Transformers. I think that they watched the Transformers and then they sang it like they loved it, because they basically, like, the Transformers always had like lyrics, but they took those lyrics and they basically made the lyrics for the movie, and then they just sang with their whole chest. They played their instruments like their hearts depended on it, and they turned it into like a classic rock ballad. It's just I love that. I played the soundtrack, man. I've got the soundtrack in rotation.
I've got it on vinyl actually. I've never opened it, but I actually have the whole soundtrack on vinyl because I am. Also, NRG does Instruments of Destruction. I'm not sure which one that was.
That's when the Peoples was getting capped.
Oh, that was great. The music throughout it is great. But yeah, when the Peoples getting capped, the music is so perfect. Oh, so that's the one where it's like, you got to take a chance? Is that the one when the ship is coming through and then Megatron, like when he spies him, is that the song that's playing?
I'm not sure. I just know
when Megatron busts in the ship, there's this hard ass song playing right there. So
right. That might be it, or it might be Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way. I can't remember.
I think it's Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way. That's the one by Kick-Axe.
Right.
That was amazing as well. Of course, Weird Al Yankovic's Dare to Be Stupid. So he wrote Dare to Be Stupid for this, or was it?
Yes. Wow. I don't know if he wrote it for this, but it's his song. Right. I didn't do the research on that.
I don't think it was released till this movie.
I've never seen or heard of this song until this movie came out. Right. And then I haven't really seen or heard of it since. So maybe I should do some research to find out if it's on a different album or if he made it specifically for this movie. Because everybody else, well, actually, no, I think Kick-Axe is just a song that they use. It was on their album, and they used their song for this album, and it works. It works for this.
And then, of course, the all-time classic Stan Bush with The Touch. And Dare, but I don't know Dare. But The Touch was inspired by a line in Iron Eagle. I did not know that, and was originally written for Cobra. I think I'd heard that a long time ago. I've never seen Cobra. As much as I love 80s action films, I've never seen that one all the way through. So I wouldn't know it, but it's so perfect in this film. Like when the pianos come in, when Optimus starts transforming, nigga chills. Like Megatron must be stopped at any cost.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
And then niggas start rolling through them niggas and it starts ticking up.
Right.
And it gets all the way to the right before he walks up on Megatron.
Right. Oh, and the money shot of that is when he's coming up on, I guess it's Thundercracker, and it's
and he's in his
it's not Thundercracker. It's one of the other ones. It's one with the cone head, and just basically, and he sees his reflection in Optimus's grill as Optimus is running him down and knocks him out into the air. I was like, it's either thrust or dirge. I don't know the color scheme, but it's one of those two.
When he hits him, it's amazing. Like,
that's the money shot right there. That's like
the music.
When you see that shot, you're like, oh, this is high class animation right here.
Bro, but it's like, I'm telling you, it's like when the keys kick in and he does that first transform in slow motion into the truck,
right?
And then you see him rolling over the bridge all slow, and it's just like the piano's playing and it's building up, and it's that. It's not just the songs are great; it's how they sequence the songs to the animation, which is so well done in this film. It's like it's so 80s, it's so over the top, but it's so perfect.
And Dare, the one to remind you, Dare is the one when Daniel sees he sees the spaceship coming in, and he says, "Let's go look at it." And then him and Rodimus goes up, and they say Dare, and he's riding on the skateboard, trips up and whatnot. That has to be rescued from skateboarding. And then
I mean, he's hoverboarding, man. And that animation during that hoverboard shot, that shot of him going through the valley is so fire, man.
It's nice.
It feels like this movie was done by different people. Like there's certain shots where it's like, and then there's certain shots where it's like, this is some high class Japanese animation right here.
Exactly the same way. There's a scene. There's a part when in Optimus Prime Death when his head looks different. It's like in some shots his head is super dramatic, and in other shots it looks like it was made for the cartoon. So
and it's pretty quickly done. But because I remember that shot from the commercial when he's like, I've waited 1,000 years for this or whatever. And I was like, yo, Optimus looks fucked up. What is that? Megatron looks fucked up. I've never seen either of them look rock like that.
Right.
As a kid, that was like, because the detail was so different from what we're used to seeing.
Absolutely. So let me, that's it for the opening credits. Let me get to some of these announcements. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again because I forgot. So I did a live drawing at YouTube and got the winner of the Felix the Cat t-shirt emoji. And so the winner was Casey Box. He hosts an evening at the movies. So the shirt is on his way. So he's the proud winner of the Felix the Cat emoji t-shirts. And we'll be collaborating next month. So if you haven't heard an evening at the movies, go check that one out. Also, still on 10 a.m., I'm doing Sunday Morning Snap on Twitch where I'm playing Marvel Snap. And there's the new season, Avengers versus X-Men. I'm having a blast. And
I need to link you with this dude, Pristine, I think his name is. I'm doing a show with him tonight, and he does Marvel Snap. That's all he does.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right. He's probably going to tell me, man, you need to do it 24/7. I was like, I don't know, man.
No, he don't do that. I don't know if he's on Twitch. I know Twitch is 24/7, but I know he does YouTube videos about Marvel Snap. So
okay.
I'm not sure if he's doing.
I definitely want to check that out because I need some strategies. Because
he got all that.
Because I got decks that work incredibly well, and then I got some decks that I'm experimenting with. I was like, but these decks ain't working. It's like my cards ain't coming up. These characters are too weak, and I'm getting owned. So finally, this is a reminder that Google Podcast is coming to a close. It'll be closing soon in some markets. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be closed in yours. So obviously, they're switching over to YouTube Music and YouTube. But if you need a new podcast home, if you need a new place where you can listen to your podcast, then please choose Pocket Cast. That's the one that I love, and it's free. It has the Podcast 2.0 standard, and it has smart playlists if you're into that sort of thing. So if I'm going to rock with anybody, if I'm going to espouse a podcast app that you can use, choose Pocket Cast. And so that's it. And now we're going to switch over to the next segment. Oh, you know what? There we go. I hit the correct sound effect the second time. We're going to talk about our 5 favorite parts of the movie. Now, I kind of had to break it down to my 5 favorite parts because what's going to happen is that if I just get talking about favorite parts, then I'll end up just narrating the movie, and that's no good for anybody.
No. Not at all.
So, is there a favorite part you want to start us off with?
Yeah, I just want to think, because this is something I know I peeped it. Like I said, I've seen this movie too many times, from youth to adult, just over and over and over again. But the little visual jokes in the animation, I really love. Like when Megatron's getting carried back to the ship after he gets rocked, one of Soundwave's little robots is running along with his gun, carrying his big ass gun behind him. Or even when Soundwave and Blaster first go at it, and their tapes are going back and forth, and one of the guns bats down, one of the little man bats down Ravage with his gun.
Right.
Shoots Ravage. Or when the Dinobots roll up on Devastator, and Devastator slams the Brontosaurus Dinobot, and his eyes pop out of his head, like, old school animation type thing, some goofy ass animation. So the fact that they did little stuff like that in it, that was one of my favorite parts.
Absolutely, that's awesome. One of my favorite things about the whole movie, we already talked about with the soundtrack. The soundtrack fixed the movie absolutely perfectly. It's like it really envelops the movie, it enhances the movie, and somehow they just chose all the correct songs. And then some aspects of the soundtrack, like especially the instrumental soundtrack parts of the soundtrack, they continue in like the third season of the Transformers, basically to remind people that Optimus Prime is dead and he's not coming back. But we'll talk about that a little later on.
For like 5 minutes. Another favorite part we already talked about is the slaughter in the beginning. Because the first time I saw Transformers, I took the bus. I was living in Houston. I grew up in Houston, so I took the bus to see it, and I got there late. And so I missed the slaughter at the beginning. I think I walked in right when Optimus was buying it, or right before that, like for Megatron's fight, but I missed that initial slaughter. So I sat in the theater, watched the whole movie, and like you could do back in the days, I just sat in the theater and waited for it to start again.
Right.
So I waited for that whole to start again, and I watched the whole movie again, back to back. And then I rode home on the bus alone, and it's like a 30-40 minute ride. And I'm just sitting on the bus, like, dark cloud, rain pouring over my head. It was a beautiful summer, hot day in Houston, and I'm just sitting there like, smoke poured out that nigga's mouth. Like, what were they thinking? And so as traumatized and devastated as I was, it becomes one of my favorite parts of any film ever. It's just such, and it's funny because it's all over capitalism, but I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the funny thing. That was it was super impactful. That's another one of my favorite parts also. And like when you're watching it, well, here's the thing, my journey was a little bit different. So I didn't get to watch it in theaters. Like I was a little bit older than you, but still not old enough to have my own agency to go to the theater. So it's like I'm just one of those kids just wanting to see it and not able to see it. So
oh man,
yeah. So I kind of missed it.
I was on the bus,
but what happened? Right. So
I went all by myself.
Right. I was afraid of my parents. So what happened is that
my parents were like, get on that bus, boy.
Right. So what happens is that I kind of heard secondhand about what happened to the movie. So I kind of like dead in the shock. So I didn't actually see it. And then I finally got the story of the movie when Marvel Comics published their version of the movie. And it's like, I got the shock like third hand or whatever. So, but it doesn't do it justice when you read in the comic book as when you see it in the theater. So I finally got to see it like years later. I finally got it. What? I can watch this on DVD. So I finally got, it took a while for me to actually watch it. And so when I finally watched it, it was like, man, this is like the best thing ever. So, so like you described that first battle when Megatron just comes in the ship and it's like just shooting people with regular lasers that other Decepticons are just blasting Autobots. And I'm like, oh my God, these dudes are just getting killed. And then
it's like,
and here's the funny part:
Autobots,
right. The main Autobots, not the third characters, the tertiary characters, or the ones you only saw one time in a cartoon. And then the thing when Megatron does the thing where the first thing he does is he transforms into his gun, and he gets fired by Starscream as a gun. Yeah. And apparently he's more powerful as a gun than he is as a robot. So Starscream is just putting holes in other robots. So I was like, oh, I've never seen this. And then the Autobots seem really ineffective because they're shooting and they're not hitting nobody. Or, or when they do hit, the lasers seem to be bouncing off. Like, their lasers are weaker. I don't understand this.
They weren't ready. They weren't ready.
So I love that part. The first battle, all the way up to the Optimus Prime fight. All of that was some of the best animation for the film is in that movie. And I just loved all of that. All the way up into the death of Optimus Prime. That scene was done extremely well. So just that chunk of movie is one of my favorite parts.
I think the thing is we covered a lot of my other favorite parts. So I will say Ultra Madness getting blown apart. Even though we talked about that.
Right.
Him getting blown apart and screaming "Open, damn it, open" was one of my favorite parts of that movie. And then the fact that it ends in his failure and he just gets blown apart.
Yeah.
And also the Optimus Prime knew damn well that he wasn't the man, but didn't bother to tell him before he died.
Well, he did tell him. He said, I wasn't ready either, but I'm going to give this to you until somebody else comes along who can accept it.
Yeah, so I guess he did tell him he wasn't the man.
But it's like, I'm about to die. What else? What you want me to do? You're the only one I know. It's like, who am I supposed to do? Give it to Rodimus? He a kid.
Yeah, well, he knew, but everybody knew when he grabbed it when it fell and the light shined on him. Niggas should have been like, "Hey, maybe this is for you, bro."
Right.
Gave it right over to Ultra Madness and let his ass get murdered. So.
Right.
That was like, one of my favorite.
And then here's the thing, right? And this is what I kind of get upset with Ultra Magnus. It's like, dude, have you ever seen Optimus Prime pull out the matrix of leadership and be like, open up so you can defeat my enemies? He has never done that. So what made you think you were supposed to do that? You dumb. That was a dumb thing to do. One
other thing though, during the research for this, I found out that in the original script, Ultra Madness was drawn and quartered by the opposing robots.
Oh, goodness gracious. They was going to do him dirty.
They was going to do him dirty. And that is, like I said, this movie is already out of control wild. But I cannot believe that somebody's like, yeah, let me write some drawing and quartering into a children's film. Lord have mercy.
Well, I guess they figure, well, they're just robots.
Yeah, no, nigga, no.
One of my other favorite parts is when Megatron meets Unicron. So, and this ties into the dialogue. That's another one of my favorite parts. Where just that meeting and the conversation that they have. That was
perhaps I misjudged you.
Right. That's just
proceed.
And it's like I caught. And the great thing about reading the comics is that's primarily how I caught the dialogue is by reading the comics. So that's when Unicron says, "I summoned you for a purpose," and he's like, "No one summoned Megatrons." And then it pleases me to be the first. Come on now,
No, that's epic. Right. As a writer, I was watching that shit like, yo, that's great.
It's like, you don't faze me, tiny being. And then Megatron asks him, Unicron asks for Megatron's help. And Megatron's like, "What's in it for me?" And Unicron says, "Your bargaining posture is highly dubious," because this is Megatron about to die, right?
Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
And then, Unicron offers him some stuff, and Megatron is like, and Unicron's like, "And nothing. You belong to me now."
Pretty much.
So I'm tying those two parts together, meeting Unicron and the dialogue.
That's pretty much all I got, honestly, for a favorite part. Cause I love the whole movie, so I don't want to sit here and go over the whole thing like that. But that's pretty much all I got.
Well, I'm
talking about the other stuff.
I'm only going to do one more, and that's Starscream's demise. So that's one of the most classic scenes in cinema. Also, excellent dialogue, and it's like this is what I mean. It's like he could have just said, "Surely you can't be serious, Starscream." Or he could have said something like, "Oh, you're just joking, Starscream." But no, he said, "This is bad comedy." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's some code to write."
Spare me this mockery of a coronation.
Right.
It's alive for me. And then here's a hint. It's like just the greatest. That's one of the greatest fucking lines ever. Like, it's just like this. I can't think of that's up there with any of Arnold Schwarzenegger's great one-liners. That is right up there with Clint Eastwood, anything.
Right.
Here's a hint.
Right.
pure comedy.
And this is like Megatron dealing with Starscream for the last time. It's like, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I've really had about enough of your shit. And I've got some new Transformers. Like I got Cyclonus, I got Scourge, I got the Sweeps. I don't really need you anymore. And you're kind of a pain. It's like, you're done. And plus you left me out in space to die. Oh, you getting it.
Here's the hint. Boy. That's just, ooh.
All right, moving right along. Let's hit the top 10 trivia. All right, so why don't you start us off on one of this juicy back what do you call it, behind the camera type information?
All right, this film is considered a bridge between the second and third seasons of the Transformers TV series, as several third season characters are introduced here and several first season characters are killed or altered. Megatron was changed to Galvatron, Optimus Prime was killed, and the Quintessons were introduced, etc.
Yeah.
And I stopped caring right around this time, too. So.
Yeah.
The Quintessons were so annoying to me. I gave no fucks. Like,
actually, they did have some of my favorite dialogue. It's like that everybody was pronounced innocent and then killed.
Yeah, it was cute for the movie. I didn't need to see them in the third season. Is what, after that, it was like, nah, fam.
There was even one episode that I liked where the Quintesson was judging one of their own, and then they pronounced that Quintesson guilty. I forgot what the crime was. And then the Quintesson that was being executed said, "I praise your decision, open the pit." I was like, oh my God, Quintesson's going hard.
That's great.
Or like when Rodimus Prime said, when the Quintesson said, "Quiet or you be held in contempt of court." And Hot Rod said, "I have nothing but contempt for this court." I just love that. So Hasbro wanted to kill some of the original Transformers to replace them with newer toys. That was the impetus for Prowl having smoke coming out of his mouth. At the Transformer convention, Rod Freeman said that he didn't want to kill Optimus Prime. He told Hasbro that if they killed Optimus Prime, that he would have to be brought back. Hasbro said never, and 90 days later, Prime was back. Friedman said that for years, strangers would approach him on the street and accused him of killing Optimus Prime.
I highly doubt it. I'm like, who knows who the hell this dude is? Well, there wasn't no internet back then.
Well, he makes appearances at conventions all the time.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't strangers. That was people at conventions coming up to you, bro.
Yeah,
like,
probably, but still.
You acting like you walking down the street every day and people are like, you can't, no.
Right.
No. Stay your ass away from conventions, then. Let's see. Director Nelson Shin and story consultant Flint Dilley have confirmed that Orson Welles had a hard time recording his lines due to his failing health. I really don't want to read all this, man. It was Orson Welles' last days, man. That's right. I don't know. I'm sorry. We all know they use the synthesizer to make his voice sound more like Unicron. Like, you know that. I mean, it's not Unicron. Like, it's not Orson Welles' straight voice, but
right.
And I get it, man. I was having a hard time.
And they were going to do that anyway. Cybertron's third moon, which exists solely due to an editing error in this movie, would reappear in Beast Machine's Transformers, still bearing Unicron's claw marks. I didn't know that there were supposed to only be 2 moons.
I didn't know that either, and I've never seen Beast Machines. So, I mean, Beast Wars, any of that. I've never seen that, so no clue.
Right.
Ron Friedman has said that his favorite characters to write for were Optimus Prime, Cup, and Starscream. His least favorite was Wheelie, who he called a pain in the ass.
Yeah, pain in the ass.
Wheelie's rhyming.
Right.
Yeah, and Wheelie is a pain in the ass. Kind
of hard to understand. He's definitely a character for which one might use closed captions.
Yeah.
The band who sings on the soundtrack called Nothing's Gonna Stand in Our Way and Hunger is listed on the soundtrack credits as Spectre General, but the band's name is actually Kick-Axe. When the soundtrack was being assembled, the soundtrack producers thought that the name Kick-Axe sounded too threatening, so but saying damn in a cartoon, that's A-okay. Yeah. So they listed the band as Spectre General. The band was not notified about the change, and that's the fucked up part. It was like, The reason we do this stuff is so that people can hear our work and come see us play so that we can make money. And now you got us making us look like we're two different bands. That's some foul shit. I'll say it like that.
Damn sure is. But it ain't like anybody saw this movie, so same time, nobody, you know.
Right. Really. It's not like this movie was like a multi-million-dollar hit.
No, it was not. So, yeah. When asked about his role, Orson Welles couldn't remember his character's name and described his role as a big toy who attached a bunch of smaller toys. And he's 100% right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I remember seeing this somewhere else, and I was like, and it's so accurate, so on point. So it's like, I don't
like when people do stuff like that. Like Orson Welles is a legend. Like he shouldn't have to fucking remember Unicron.
Right.
Who cares? Like,
And it's not like he phoned it in. He actually put in work with that. Right. He did the work.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that matters. One of the original demands of the Transformers toy line and cartoon series was that no female Transformers could appear, as the toys were marketed strictly toward boys. However, writer Ron Friedman fought hard to include female robots in the Transformers lore, as his daughter was a huge fan of the franchise. This led to the creation of RC, a female Autobot debuting in this movie, as well as a number of other female characters introduced during season 2 of the Transformers. Ironically, despite being one of the movie's featured characters, no toy of RC was produced during the entirety of the original Transformers line. Though at least one rejected prototype was designed, RC became the most famous female character in the Transformers brand, and numerous incarnations of her appeared in various other cartoons, comics, movies, and toy series. It was only in 2014, 28 years after her introduction, that Hasbro finally released a toy based on this movie's design. Like finally. And it's an awesome toy. I've seen it.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Because the Springer toy was whack. And the Cup toy was the Wreck Gar toy was dope. But yeah, you weren't getting the dope ones like they have now. Like
right.
Where it was all back then, it was always a choice whether the vehicle looked good or the robot looked good.
Right.
Never both. And now you get the ones that like it looks like the movie, like it looks like she looks like the shorty, and then she transforms into the car and looks like the cards.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing.
It looks amazing. They have one of the Dinobots, the Brontosaurus. I forgot his name, but I've seen him in Target. The movie version of him in Target, and that looks amazing. I was like, I'm super tempted to get that one, but
they got the Grimlock that moves now, and the Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
It's out of my price range.
I know, right? If only. The next lottery I win, that'll definitely be one of the purchases.
I was thinking about getting the Grimlock for my best friend because he always gets me these really nice birthday presents, but never anything of that high value. But he always said. But then I was like, Jesus, I just can't do it. I can't. I'm sorry, bro. And Grimlock is his dude, and I so wanted to, but it was like, nah.
Right.
All right. Story editor Flint Dilley once described the movie script as a Frankenstein of different drafts and ideas and people. Yep. Because of how many hasty and incoherent rewrites of that during. See that stuff like that. I dislike when people, say that. Nigga, that's every script and every production. Like everything goes through a multitude of rewrites, and it's usually chaotic production. That's how productions are, man.
Right.
I don't like that's with the Orson Welles stuff. I don't like when people, like throw dirt on something behind after it's done. Like, bruh, nah. It's how it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Finally, Unicron's roar when he finds out that the Matrix has been passed on to Ultra Magnus is that of the Hulk from the Incredible Hulk 1982 animated series. I thought it sounded familiar.
I've never seen that animated. Well, I probably have because I used to rent all those animated series, but they're not good. So,
well, I used to love that series. That's they used to pair him with Spider-Man. So it was after Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and they had another version of Spider-Man was just him by himself. And
oh man, I missed that.
Yeah, it was. Looks like it looks like the same production company, Sunbro Marvel, and it looked really good. I loved it. The first season was Spider-Man, and I think the second season they kind of paired Spider-Man in the whole cartoons.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess because I was young, I don't know how I would receive it now, but I loved them shits growing up.
Don't know either. All right.
All right, we're going on to the next segment. Critics' thoughts. I'm not getting all of my consonants in, but that's all right. So the critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 62%. Audience have it at 88%. So I'm surprised. And on IMDb is a 7.2 out of 10. Because I'm watching this movie thinking I'm the only one that likes it. Seeing as how the box office did not reflect how many people will give it positive reviews. But I think the key is that this is a lot of in retrospect type of viewing. It's like,
I mean, come on, the Ride Tables didn't exist when this movie came out. It's all retrospect.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about as far as people saying that they enjoyed the movie.
But that's still, that's all. Anyone who's leaving a review on Rotten Tomatoes is retrospect, saying they enjoyed it.
Right.
Back then, people were dogging this shit.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. They were definitely like, this is not great cinema right here.
Yeah, not at all.
All right. So Pat Graham from the Chicago Reader wrote, a 1986 computer animated feature based on a popular TV cartoon show, further inspired, no doubt, by the philanthropic desire of Japanese and American toy manufacturers to keep their kitty customers rolling in robots. And you know what? I have zero problems with that. Next is Douglas Davidson from Chicago Sun-Times wrote, the film itself is fine from a narrative standpoint, entertaining enough for fans of the series and bold in the choices that it takes. Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Mm-hmm. Karen James, Filmhead, says, while all this action may captivate young children, the animation is not spectacular enough to dazzle adults. I'd agree for the most part, but yeah, I don't know. I would have to have seen it as an adult then to be able to say that. So I don't know. I'd agree though, because if not for my love of it, but there's some dope. Yeah, whatever, Karen. Tim Brayton, alternate ending, said, simply put, this looks good and parts of it are visually exciting. And for a non-Disney animated feature in the mid 1980s, that's pretty huge. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it felt huge to me. It's like it wasn't as big as a Disney production, but on the other hand, this is not like the subject matter. Well, not really the subject matter, but the story approach, like killing a bunch of characters in the beginning of a movie. That's not an approach that Disney would take. I don't think.
Disney will kill your mama in the first 10 minutes of the movie. That's how they do it.
That's true. But just your mama, and you didn't know
not your whole crew.
Right, not the whole crew. And you didn't know the mama. Like you've only known the mama for like maybe 10 minutes or something like that. It's not like you grew up with the mama for like an entire year and couldn't wait to see the mama again. And next thing you know, actually no, 2 years, because there's 2 seasons. So you known this mama for 2 years. And next thing you know, the mama and all her kin get capped. So you're like, that's foul, right?
And it's like, it's 2 years and it's all that time as a child. Like,
right.
Transformers was one of the first toys I had,
Right.
All right.
So that's it for what the critics thought. Finally, The Transformers, the movie, is, as of this recording, available on streaming. That's it for today. In a fortnight, we'll be back with another exciting movie from yesteryear. It's the first animated feature to be examined. No, that's this one. This is the first one. This is going to be the second one, because I had to shuffle some episodes around. So now I didn't change the speech. So my next guest would be Kendra Beltran from the podcast Crushgasm. Join us as we reminisce about Disney's Hercules. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Backlick Cinema. If you post on any of those platforms, don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlickcinema.com. And you have any additional plugs, DJ BenHaMeen?
No, like I said before, we're going to drop all my plugs in here, but, please make sure you check out Jimi Hendrix, Purpl Haze, available very soon from Titan Publishing. If you love comics, if you love Star Wars, if you love blackness, if you love music, if you love space opera, if you love Dune, if you love fantasy, if you love dragons, if you love 80s hair metal and big, like the imagery that you used to see on the side of vans and all that stuff. You know, we got all that in here. And one thing that I haven't mentioned enough on it is it, you know, it features Hendrix as the main character. It also features two women, Raina and Vesper, who are two of my favorite characters that I've ever created. And they both have real huge story arcs in this book. And that was something that me and Mello really wanted to make sure we did as well, because we didn't want it to just feature Hendrix. We wanted to create a whole universe. And in doing that, we wanted to, you know, put some women around him that really had an influence on the story and really tell their own stories in the story. So that's something I'm really proud of as well. And
when did you say the book would be out?
July 30th.
July 30th. That's a day after my birthday. That would be a great birthday present for myself. So
yes,
one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlit Cinema, the podcast. Please believe me, it matters. I know that you've enjoyed our guest, DJ BenHaMeen, so please listen to For All Nerds. Please check out his fresh remixes on SoundCloud and pre-order your copy of Purpl Haze from your local comic book shop if you can, or directly from Titan Comics or Amazon.com. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.